Hey, fuckers, what up, what up, what up? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 54 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you very much for taking a listen. This episode I am recording on August 23rd. It's like 6 something in the morning right now. And I'm getting used to this recording before work type of thing. But I say that just to mention, in case my voice sounds like different or tired, or I actually don't feel tired, but like I'm always stuffy and I have allergies and like nose issues and stuff like that. And my wife tells me I'm nose blind. So yeah, I don't know where that came from. All right, so in this episode, I speak about UFC 202, an HBO miniseries the night of, yes, again, because it's that good. The Netflix original series, Stranger Things. I finished reading Steven Pressfield's latest book, and I'm going to share something interesting with you guys from that. And what else? His latest book, Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit, is the title of it. Joining my first writing community. I'm going to tell you guys about that. Well, technically second, but we'll get into that in a bit. And I share a book review getting tip that has been very slowly, but has been working for me. And lastly, a thought on gun control. A lot of different types of things in this episode, right? All right, so if you're into any of that stuff, that's what I'm going to be speaking about mainly. And, of course, sprinkled with a shitload of different tangents and stuff like that happen to come about naturally. All right, so first off, UFC 202 was dope. If you guys are into MMA at all, if you guys are into UFC, follow like any of the storylines or anything like that, it was an epic night of fights. I personally enjoyed it more than UFC 200, which was the card that, was hyped like crazy with Brock Lesnar and shit like that. Well, not the entire card, because that was a very, very stacked card. With the undercard just being chock full of fights that could have been headliners themselves. So I don't exactly mean that, but the last, I guess the main event fight definitely, the co-main event fight definitely, and the fight before that definitely, like all three of the last fights of UFC 202, I like better than the last 3 fights of UFC 200. So starting off with Cowboy Cerrone and Rick Story, which was a sick like knockout combination by Cowboy Cerrone to end the fight. I love watching him fight. He's a very exciting fighter. Very, very, in unmartial artist terms, he shows you what, as a fan, you want to see as a fighter. Like, he throws a lot of like punches and kicks and just a lot of different stylistic things, I guess you can say, and he's just entertaining to watch. And he ended the fight with, I think it was like a left hook followed by a straight right, left hook to the face, right? And then followed by a straight right to the stomach, and then followed by another left hook to the face. No, a straight right to the stomach. Yeah, then another left hook to the face, and then a right kick to the face, like just back to back, like pop, 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 and won the fight like that. And it was like a sick way to end, because it was like very precise, and executed very well. Shout out to Cowboy, who was fighting at 155, I want to say, or was it 170? I don't remember the weight, but he was talking about going back down. I think it's 170, because he's fought in different like weight classes before. This is the one that they say he has the best success in, but he for some reason likes going down, and then when he goes down, he kind of looks like emaciated and takes a toll on his body and doesn't do as well. But for some reason, he likes doing that shit. But if he stays in this weight class, it'll be seemingly much better for him. And he's definitely one of the coolest guys in the UFC. In terms of every single press conference that he's in and stuff like that, there's no bullshit, no shit talking, no back and forth. Every opponent that I've ever seen him at, in a press conference, they're always hugging and fucking shaking hands and stuff like that, and they like him, So that says something to me. Then the next fight, you have Anthony Rumble Johnson and Glover Teixeira. Where Anthony Rumble Johnson, spoiler alert, by the way, if you guys haven't seen UFC 202. Anthony Rumble Johnson knocked out Glover, and these are two legit contenders for the belt. It wasn't someone that's ranked 1 and someone that's ranked 8 or something like that. It's the 1 and 2 ranked light heavyweights in the division, both which are known for, first and foremost, their knockout power. So in this fight, you knew there was going to be a knockout, and it just so happened that Anthony Rumble Johnson knocked out Glover Teixeira within, I believe, 13 seconds. And I haven't seen this, but a coworker of mine actually told me that if you watch it in slow-mo, you could see Glover Teixeira's tooth fly out of his head, which is sick. I gotta see if I find that clip. But yeah, he's a powerful dude, man. Anthony Rumble Johnson is still one person that I say can, in my opinion, defeat Jon Jones, who, by the way, might be back. His suspension supposedly might get lifted because they found out that the substance that he tested positive for was actually Cialis or some shit like that, something in Cialis that mimics a steroid. I don't know, some weird shit. But that story is still developing. Anyway, he is, Jon Jones is pound for pound one of the greatest of all time, or arguably the greatest of all time. And Anthony Rumble Johnson is in his same division, and he's one of the people that I feel can, if he catches him, knock him out. Anthony Johnson has fought the current champion, which took the belt after Jon Jones has gotten suspended, and he's been on suspensions back and forth. And Anthony Rumble Johnson actually lost to Daniel Cormier, which is the current lightweight heavyweight champion in the UFC. And Daniel Cormier has lost to Jon Jones. So that's more of, in my opinion, a stylistic thing. Actually, the Daniel Cormier and Rumble fight, the first one, I haven't seen it. I definitely have to look that up. But from podcasts I listen to and stuff like that, he beat Rumble Johnson by avoiding the shit out of the power in his hands, and just grinding it out, wrestling, and pinning him up against the fence and just grinding him out like that. Daniel Cormier is a legit Olympic wrestler, so which Rumble Johnson called him out for a rematch. And Rumble Johnson's another one. He's super respectful. He's I got nothing but respect for you, but let's do this again. And that'll be cool to see. That'll be definitely cool to see. Aside from if Jon Jones comes back into the mix, then things change a little bit. But because he has this intense rivalry with Daniel Cormier, and is the legit champion of that division. He just got suspended a shitload of times and hasn't been able to defend his belt and was forced to vacate it, etc. Then, the main event of the evening, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, was an epic rematch. A sick, bloody mess of a fight that lived up to all of its hype and was just a matchup between two warriors. In the first fight, if you guys remember, Conor McGregor dominated the first round, and then Nate Diaz hurt him, fucked him up in the second round, and then got him to the ground where it's a wrap. Anybody going to the ground with Nate Diaz, he's a legit black belt in jiu-jitsu. Conor's not. For those of you that don't know, just for a little bit of context, again, from a non-martial artist, from my understanding of just being a fan of MMA, jiu-jitsu is like the like upper echelon, top notch. It's like the if you go against someone who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu and you're a black belt in something else, you're probably gonna lose. It's like that martial art. Once it goes like to the ground, it's a wrap. It's like those, like the image or the imagery depicted in some movies or where you have the big huge sumo wrestler and the short small tiny skinny guy or whatever, and the skinny guy wins. How he wins, and you could check out like UFC 1 with the where the Gracies like introduced this or popularized it. How he wins is via jiu-jitsu. But yeah, that's how Nate won the first one and choked him out and set the stage for this epic rematch. This rematch went 5 rounds, went to decision, and it was a unanimous decision in Conor's favor. I thought, and again, I'm ill-informed at how the terminology of decisions. It's a unanimous decision, and I came to learn that just means that all judges scored it like 3 rounds to 2 or 3 rounds or 4 rounds to 1 or something like that. It wasn't the fact that it was like a close fight. So I was thinking that it should have been a split decision because it was a close fight, but I guess all 3 judges scored it, more rounds for Conor than for Nate, and that caused it to be a unanimous decision as opposed to a split. But looking back on it, and again listening to interviews with fighters that know what they're talking about, and people that break down these fights, the judges definitely got it right in terms of points. Conor was kicking the shit out of Nate like throughout the entire fight. He was kicking Nate's front leg, which Nate notoriously, his style of fighting, he leaves out there for you to kick. So much so that Conor broke his foot and or ankle and is out until February 2017, unless he gets cleared by an orthopedist, I don't know, one of those doctors that deal with that type of shit. Unless he gets cleared by the earliest he could come back is October, but most likely it's going to be February 2017. And that's how much he was kicking Nate. Conor also knocked Nate down twice in the first round, which is definitely under the new rules, judging rules. It's definitely a 10-8 round to Conor. The second round, he knocked him down again. So that was like a 10-9 round to Conor. Then the third round, in true Diaz form, Diaz came back like a fucking zombie. And that's how he's always been throughout his career. I think like 10 plus years in the UFC. He started when he was like 21. He's like, 30, 31 now. And the Diaz brothers, him and his brother Nick, are known for that. They just keep coming at you no matter what. Hence, probably why they're like both punch drunk. But warriors nonetheless. And an interesting side note with Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz, actually, they, although they're like black belt jiu-jitsu artists from, I think they have Gracie jiu-jitsu black belts. They're not like these black belts you could go buy in the fucking bodega and shit. They're like legit black belts in jiu-jitsu. But they're like top-notch boxing skills too, and they've been said to have like the one of the best, but like boxing level skills in MMA, and they train with legit boxers. Nate Diaz for this camp was training with some kid that's ranked like 7th in the nation in boxing. They both started in boxing gyms and then found jiu-jitsu after the fact. So that's like their shit boxing. Andrew Ward, I believe it was, says that Nate could hold his own in boxing. That he was a training partner of his, which is pretty cool. And anyway, Nate took the third round, probably 10-9. There was a flurry towards the end of the third round where it looked like Conor looked in the second round of the first fight, like when Nate started like fucking him up and got him to the ground. But Conor was like saved by the bell. Then the fourth round probably went Conor's way as well. It was more even though. Like that one was the one that could have gone either way. And then the fifth round most likely went to Nate because Nate had a takedown in the fight, which counts for in that round rather, which counts for a lot of points. And again, Conor got was like saved by the bell because it was like towards the tail end of the fifth round. So the max that it could really be is like 2 rounds to 3 in favor of Conor, which hence the unanimous decision. And you could make an argument for a 4-1 round, but aside from that, points wise, Nate Diaz, kept coming at him. He was bloody as fuck. But like Mike Rappaport has said, and everybody that knows either of the Diaz brothers, especially Nate, and Brendan Schaub spoke to this actually recently on The Fighter and the Kid. The Nate Diaz is, first off, he's the type that bleeds like a motherfucker. Like if the wind is blowing, he'll like start bleeding. And second, his style of fighting, that like come at you like boxing style, like take punishment type of fighting, has caused so much scar tissue to develop in his face that just from like getting punched once, like it opened that back up, and that's why he bleeds so much. And his like the meme of him is pretty much like him with his arms up and just a bloody face. Like that's his normal, So you have that. Then you have the fact that like Nate said, Conor was. These are all the other things that people feel should have, I guess, changed the outcome or should be factored into decisions. Which to some degree I believe they are, like in terms of who keeps the pace of the fight, who pushes the pace of the fight rather, and stuff like that. Like, I think that's supposed to be factored in, aside from just like points. But they both did that. They both kept going at each other just at different parts of the fight, and just Nate is more like a zombie with it. And Conor did some running, like Nate was saying, and Conor even said himself, he was like, "Yo, it's a big boy. I had to catch my breath. I had to get away from his relentless, like strikes and shit when he's coming at him." Which is true. He fought smart, in that sense. But the flip side of that is, if you're running, you shouldn't be given the win or whatever. But yeah, it was an epic night of UFC fights, and for those of you that haven't seen it and can, you should if you're into that type of thing. I am. All right, so HBO miniseries. Actually, let me just mention the night of. No, not the night of. I'm sorry. Stranger Things, because the night of I'm probably going to spend a little bit more time on. So Stranger Things is a Netflix original series, which was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. My brother actually told me about it, and I checked it out. I had heard of it, but it wasn't something that I was necessarily going to watch. Really, that my brother told me more about it, and it sounded more interesting, and I decided to check it out, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed it. It is a Netflix original series, and the only thing that I want to mention about it, aside from the fact that it was really, really good, and you guys should definitely check it out, is that because I've heard like different like YouTube reviews of it, and just like comments said about it, like that it's like a ripoff of the 80s and stuff like that. But there's a very, 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 to me, clear night and day difference. And I guess I don't know how to articulate it very well, but like it's literally two different things between being a ripoff and being an homage or like a nod. You know, like the series to me is first off created by the Duffer Brothers, who are in their early 30s, who are 80s babies. They grew up in the 80s. They're into filmmaking, obviously, and they wrote the screenplay and created the show, right? They are, obviously, we all are influenced in the eras that we grew up in and by things that we're into. They were into all these 80s movies that they're some people say they like ripped off. But to me, there's again a huge difference between tastefully giving a nod to the 80s, which is what I feel they did, paying tribute, if you will, to the 80s, and clearly being influenced by the 80s and saying, you know what, we love this era so much, it was part of our development so much, and we want to bring that nostalgic feeling back to the now. And they wrote this screenplay, which was great writing, in my opinion. The cinematography was excellent. They used, you know, current technologies to bring this film to life, but also make it have that feel of like vintage 80s. There was actually a digital, I don't know what it's called, a vignette or whatever that they put over the film over the digital, I don't know, taping of it to make it have that like grainy film look of the 80s, which is why it kind of like visually, like cinematography wise or whatever you call it, looked like the 80s. It's because they did things like that with current technologies, and it was dope. It was a cool story to follow, and I really enjoyed it. And it is, again, very different from like remakes of classic movies and stuff like that, which take literally zero thought and are just taking like the script, substituting the actors, and redoing it in digital form, type of thing, or taking the exact same storyline and rewording it. Basically, it's very different than doing remakes when something is done tastefully and as an homage and whatever. That's my opinion on the Netflix original series Stranger Things. So check that out on Netflix. All right, next is The Night Of, that I'm going to speak about for a bit. And again, all right, so The Night Of, I'm 7 episodes in. So anybody who has not watched that deeply, don't listen to the rest of this because there might be some spoilers. But I have a few points. I'm mainly going to speak about what I think the show is about and something cool that I've noticed, at least to me. And fast forward a bit if you guys don't want to hear any spoilers or anything. And what I feel the show is about is, first and foremost, it's like social commentary on how fucked up the justice system can be, and that has been brought, even though the show was in thoughts or pre-production or was being conceptualized back in 2013 or before 2013, because James Gandolfini was cast in John Turturro's role. Then he died, obviously in 2013, and rest in peace. And it was the show was put on ice basically until John Turturro came on board and the show's on now. So even though it's been out for that long or in the works, it's again, like, social commentary on the justice system, and I guess it came back to light, maybe, or it came back to life based on shows like Making a Murderer and the Serial podcast, and the light being shown on to the system. This is just another show showing how the system can be fucked up when it is, not that it's completely and always fucked up. The system gets it right more times than it gets it wrong, but it does get it wrong. And I want to shout out definitely the Actual Innocence podcast. And I think I mentioned it before, but if I haven't, or even if I have, check that out. It's called the Actual Innocence podcast. It's a podcast where they deal with stuff like this. Well, not like this, because the show isn't necessarily about this. It's just my opinion on it. But they deal with wrongful convictions. And the show, each episode is dedicated to someone who's been exonerated and declared actually innocent. That's the legal term for it. After spending, some people 2 years, some people 7 years, some people 18 years, some people 22 years in prison for crimes that they did not commit. And it's first account podcast. So you hear mainly the person that was locked up, that did get wrongfully convicted. You hear them speaking on each episode of the podcast, and it's like touching stories, and it makes you sad, it makes you mad, it makes you happy that they got out, it makes you mad that the system's fucked up, it makes you sad that they went through the shit that they speak about going through. And they do an excellent job. Brooke, who's the I guess creator and the person that narrates the show, has been doing like a great job with that, and it's a podcast I really enjoy, and that's informative. And you have people from all walks of life. You have white dudes, black dudes, white ladies, Jewish guys, Spanish guys. It's nuts. And that something that I learned on that episode and verified on the Innocence Project website, and I'll link to all the stuff in the episode notes, is that one of the most the leading cause of wrongful convictions is two things: tunnel vision and police misconduct. And in The Night Of, Detective Box definitely displays tunnel vision, in that he interviews Nas as a suspect, and then that's it. I mean, he does have, in Box's defense, like a shitload of evidence, a mountain of evidence, like you said in episode 7, against him. So, why look at anyone else? But that tunnel vision is like what gets people wrongfully convicted. It's according to the Innocence Project, which is the nationwide network of attorneys and researchers and people who work towards, pro bono, work towards exonerating people who are wrongfully convicted. So they are, I say that to say that they are the people that can state this with any level of validity. Tunnel vision and police misconduct are the leading causes of wrongful convictions. So that's something that's being displayed here in the show. And I remember in episode 1, like, something that I found weird was, or not weird, something that I feel could turn out to be like a nod to that fact, is the fact that, like, John Turturro, when he's walking out of the precinct, and there's like that beat cop standing outside smoking a cigarette, and he's like, what's that dude in for? No, he said something about, like, Nas, right? Like, that guy that just came in, what's up with him? And the cop said definitively, oh, he cut a girl in the Upper West Side or wherever it was. And John Turturro kind of like stopped, and he was like kind of like, allegedly, you mean, right? So it's kind of like their mind was already made up, like they were falling into that tunnel vision like mindset with Nas. And I feel like that could have been like another. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but anyway, that's one point I wanted to make. Another point is about the show is, what's the deal with his feet? John Turturro's feet. Jack Stone. He has, what is it? Not eczema. He has psoriasis, and it is like bad to the point that he can't wear like shoes and shit, and he has to wear like sandals and whatever. If you guys see the show, you guys know what I'm talking about. So here's what I think the deal is with his feet, because it's like they show it a lot. So I think, damn, my voice just sounded really loud. Just adjust the levels here. All right, so I think the whole thing with his feet is showing a parallel to what he's willing to do. It's more of like showing something about his personality, which can be attributed to. You could draw a parallel between what he's willing to do for his feet to what he's willing to do for Nas. And I know it sounds weird, but I think that, you see him going to doctors and changing doctors and trying different doctors and doing unorthodox things like wrapping his feet in Crisco and saran wrap and using UV lights and using different medicines and using steroids, even though it's killed his dick, and fucking just trying anything and everything, and then eventually going to like this Asian doctor, gives him some weird roots and powders and stuff like that in Chinatown, and which ultimately solves his psoriasis issue. And it shows how he's willing to do unorthodox things. He's willing to do anything and everything to solve that problem of his feet. And I feel like you can draw a parallel between that and how he's willing, or his personality leans towards being willing to do anything and everything to get Nas out of prison, in the sense of he go like private investigator wise, goes to speak to different people, like possible drug dealers, and they sold drugs to Andrea, and he speaks to fucking Vinny from Doogie Howser and gives him his phone to and $300 under the table to go steal some files from where Andrea went to rehab. And he spies on Paul Sparks' character, Andrea's stepfather, and at his gym and when he's eating, and he goes he does unorthodox shit like that. He fucking chases the Dwayne Reed guy through like buildings and shit like that. Looks like it's like in the Heights or something, and just chasing motherfuckers through like back alleyways and stuff like that, and stuff like that. Lawyers don't do that, right? This is like some private investigator cop type shit, but he's willing to do stuff like that, which again is in my opinion just a testament to his type of personality. And that's it shows that like that's what the whole thing is with his feet, in my opinion. And what else? All right, so then something else that the show, I believe, is about is just showing it's not that the system is like inherently wrong and poison and stuff like that, but it's just how there's a bunch of different like layers to the parties involved within the justice system that cause or can cause there to be hiccups and fuck ups. There are several things, like the show is also showing the levels of people involved in the system, and it shows you like the juxtapositions between like a lot of different of the entities involved. For example, you have the high power attorney that comes in, that lady that comes in. Oh, which real quick, to testament of what I was just saying about the point of Jack Stone and being willing to do unorthodox shit, he also, for example, like he's having the conversation with Chandra, the attorney that was assigned by that high power attorney that fucking exited stage left. He's like telling her about drugs and stuff like that and what ketamine does. And she's like, how do you know all this? Because, you know, she's what we envision as an attorney, you know, by the book, you know, looking up case studies and like shit like that and precedents and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, in his head, he's like, because I'm a fucking attorney. What do you do? You know, like, what do you mean? How do I know this? Like, you're supposed to know this. So they have like two different approaches to the same, you know, the same role. And that's why did I mention that? All right. So you have the juxtaposition, bro. I can't say that fucking word. I sound like a hick when I say it. Juxtaposition between, like the high power attorney, which is this lady, you know, glitz, glamour, fucking Park Avenue attorney or whatever the hell, versus that's willing to take this case, you know, pro bono for her, I don't know, political reasons, I guess, is my guess. And, you know, doesn't give a fuck about nobody, you know, thinks she's the shit, you know, in the court in terms of, you know, speaking to the way she treats Nas and his family even, and the judge, and, you know, she's her shit don't stink type of high power attorney versus Jack Stone. And she is like very well respected on TV and stuff like that, but nobody likes the bitch. Then you have Jack Stone, which is very much so disrespected by his peers, and, you know, not respected in the sense of, you know, he's kind of sort of taken like as a joke, but everybody likes him. You know, he's like ambulance chaser type of attorney, grinding, you know, working hard, but with you know, prostitutes and drug addicts and stuff like that, and getting them to take plea deals, and, you know, just making shit work. But everybody likes him, including the cops he deals with, and even the judge, that, you know, is happy for him when he gets the case, and he's like right place, right time, and like all that. So it shows like that juxtaposition between the attorneys, and that kind of shows the spectrum of people that you're dealing with within like that facet of the system, right? Then you have a bunch of other like juxtapositions. I got a list here for you guys. You have hip hop versus classical in terms of music. So I feel the soundtrack or yeah, I guess you could say soundtrack is showing this difference or the spectrum as well through the music. So when you see some of like the cops, especially in the early episodes, some of the other cops like going to the crime scene or taking Nas to the precinct and stuff like that, they're listening to hip hop. Whereas when you see Box, he's listening to classical music, and shows kind of like that hierarchy between like the beat cops and the about to retire top notch, you know, detective cop. Then back to the cops, you have this top notch cop, Box, who is again well respected by his peers, but I get the sense that he's not necessarily liked. He's kind of like a loner. He's about to retire. Nobody seems to give a fuck really. They are kind of like going through the motions, but like, you know, they do like that retirement party for him at the end, which seems like more out of like obligation or whatever. Nobody's really around him. He's always by himself. Cops kind of like look at him, give him like that side eye like view, and he doesn't seem like he's well liked. He's super well respected because he's good at what he does, but he's not well liked in my opinion. And then versus like the beat cops that, you know, they're bottom of the rung, have to do fucking double shifts and overtime and stuff like that, and they're, you know, just going through the motions of doing their job. Not that they're not doing it well, but it kind of shows the strain put on like that level of police. And that's an interesting like juxtaposition there. And also shows how again, especially like in the earlier like episode like 1, 2, 3, how there's this quote, I forget by who, but that everybody, like in terms of work, like if you break something down to it's just a job type of thing, everyone's doing things that their boss wants done faster, because their boss wants it done faster, because their boss wants it done faster, because their boss wants it done faster. You know what I mean? Like there's not, a lot of times there's not, I guess there has to be, but a lot of times there's not, actually, because I see this shit in my job like all the time. Like there's not necessarily a reason other than the boss wants it done faster that drives why something is being done. And if you break down, you could break down certain types of police work to this. So you have like the two cops that pick up Nas, one of them that just wants to fucking go home, the chick, and she's tired, she just worked a double, she's just trying to get out of the office basically, right? And we have to do the reports today, and then her sergeant says that she does, and stuff like that. Then her partner, which is worried about that in the report, they're typing it fast, they're trying to get out of the office, and in the report he's hung up on the fact that it mentions that he threw up, and then the guys in the office are going to make fun of him type of shit, you know what I mean? And they're just going through the motions, doing their job. Not that they're doing it necessarily badly, but there's other elements that come into play than this altruistic type of is that even the right word? Yeah, altruistic type of mentality that we have on cops that are like doing things for justice and doing things right and by the book at all costs, no matter what. Like sometimes there's other shit at play. Not sometimes, probably a lot of the time, all the time. This human shit that comes into the mix regardless of what we do. All right, so went over those points. Then you have this good boy looking like a deer caught in the headlights, quote unquote good boy, going into prison versus my boy Omar from The Wire. Shout out to Michael K. Williams, dope actor. And it shows like that difference of prisoner, I guess, if you will. So someone that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing or what he's gotten into, and then someone that has a very good grasp on the prison system, how to manipulate it, and who's running shit within the prison. My boy Chalky White. And that's an interesting dynamic there. Then we see how the someone that gets thrown into the system, wrongfully or rightly, gets corrupted by it as well. Like the show is showing that also, because fucking my boy Nas over here thinks he's in blood in, blood out or some shit, running things in the prison now, and just gets caught up in it, which is, I don't know where the fuck they're going with that. That's the thread within the story. I guess if they're just showing how the system, a corrupted system, corrupts ultimately, like type of thing, like that type of mentality, because motherfucker's getting tattoos on his hands, fucking doing crack or whatever the fuck he's smoking, and just getting involved in fucking murders, and it like nuts. Like I think they're ODing a little bit with that, but it does definitely make the point of a corrupt system ultimately corrupts people, or a corrupt environment, even someone that's a quote unquote good boy. All right, then you have the juxtaposition between Nas and the victim here, Andrea, right? You have a blue-collar, hardworking immigrant family versus a affluent white girl that has everything. His father, Nas's father, has shares a cab with two other guys. 3 of them. They work hard. They get good grades in school, the kids, and have family dinners together and stuff like that. Then you have on the opposite side of the spectrum an affluent white girl, Upper West Side, lives in a fucking brownstone by herself, that her mother left her, and just she's a wreck. She's pretty much doing everything wrong in terms of the little that we get to know her, in terms of being in and out of rehab at such a young age, having a bunch of different boyfriends according to her stepfather, doing drugs, and just has a fucking multi-million-dollar brownstone and $6 million in the bank, as we come to find that her mother left her, or 12 million because the stepfather wants half of it, or some shit like that. And so you have like that juxtaposition, right? So this shit's full of different people within the same facet, but from different walks of life, like opposite sides of the spectrum. The good boy versus Don in prison, the white affluent girl versus hardworking immigrant kid, high power attorney versus low level attorney. Which, by the way, the opening credits kind of show that by putting John Turturro's name at the bottom of the staircase as opposed to like at the top of the staircase. Supposedly they're trying to tell the story within the different pictures that they show in the opening credits. It's like telling the story through photography or something like that. I read an article about that. That was kind of interesting. Some of the things make sense. Some of them didn't. What else? All right. So I spoke about the cop, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about that, about my take on what the show is about, which again is ultimately how fucked up the justice system can be, and then just the different layers that I see in terms of the different people involved and the spectrum of people within it, and how that spectrum can cause the type of gridlock that we see with things just like not working the way they should. And it's just life, right? Like anything that you're in or into or whatever, there's like a spectrum of things. Like I always see things in terms of a spectrum. I don't know, like that's like my thing, my go-to thing. Like some people love stuff, some people hate things, and then it's everybody in between. Some people are good at things, bad at things, and everybody in between. It seems kind of obvious, but I don't know. I just think they're showing it interestingly by putting those characters, like types of characters, side by side throughout the series, and like all these different like scenes and categories and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It's a great show. Very slow pace, very dark, very gritty, and it's definitely my type of thing. So check it out if you guys haven't. It's on HBO. It's called The Night Of. Speaking of shows, and I want to read you guys the excerpt that I said I was going to read to you from Steven Pressfield's book that I finished reading. And I read you guys an excerpt last time. This is just a cool thing. The main reason why I like Steven Pressfield's work is because he kind of like demystifies shit for me, based on like my interpretation of stuff. He breaks things down, not just from his own experience, or obviously based on his experience, but he breaks things down in a way that makes sense to me and helped me with my writing personally. And this book definitely helped in that respect, and like decoding writing, if you will, and like demystifying certain things, like maybe certain ideas that you have of Hollywood and stuff like that. And obviously everybody has their own story, and you take everybody's everything with a grain of salt, at least I do. But these are, by all accounts, true accounts of like his life and shit that he went through that can help you, and some things they can't. Obviously, everything can't help. But I just like his approach and the way he breaks things down. It resonates with me and it makes sense to me. So I wanted to share something regarding one of the greatest shows of all time, Breaking Bad, that he has within his book, that he used as an example of plot, of explaining plot and explaining writing, in a sense, like decoding and demystifying it. That's what I mean by it. Like he explains like the plot of Breaking Bad, basically, which if you've seen the show, you know it, but the way he lays it out here, I think is pretty dope. And especially as a striving writer, it's important to I think look behind the curtain of things like this, and because that helps you create things like from the ground up. You know what I mean? It's not just some, I guess, like when I started, I felt like it was more of a, like less of a science to writing, There's definitely like an art to it, but there's like a science aspect to it in terms of certain structural things and Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, inciting incident, climax, paying off, loose ends, creating controversy, like that type of stuff. That's like the science to it. Then the actual like story arc of characters that they have to go through and stuff like that. That's all like the science to writing. But then you have the like story ideas, which is where you weave the art through the science of it that creates ultimately like great content, in my opinion. So anyway, this is something I'm going to read to you guys from Steven Pressfield's latest book, Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit, subtitled, and here's what to do about it. All right, so he says, so he's speaking about Breaking Bad and kind of tells you a bit about like what it's about, right? So I'll read like that paragraph, which is the one before that I really wanted to get into. So to provide for his family, after his death, he decides to start cooking methamphetamine. He teams up with a former student, sells his first batch, and along the way kills 2 competing criminals. Wow, how did Vince Gilligan, the show's creator, make all this stuff cohere? And how did he keep it together for 6 superb seasons? The answer is in one scene in the pilot. The scene takes place in Walter White's high school chemistry class. He asks the kids, "What is chemistry about?" Several students offer lame answers. Then our hero, played brilliantly by Bryan Cranston, answers the question himself. Walter White says, "Change. Chemistry is the study of change. Elements combine and change into compounds. That's all of life, right? Solution, dissolution. Growth, decay. Transformation. It's fascinating, really." That speech is not there by accident. It is Vince Gilligan's statement of the theme. What is the show about? Is the problem, and the solution is transformation. From this point in the series, from the pilot to the final season, every episode and every scene will be about transformation. When the writers become lost and feel their control over their material slipping away, they will return to this touchstone. Quote, "Make this moment about transformation." End quote. And no one, of course, will transform more than our protagonist, mild-mannered Walter White. And that's it. I thought that was such a dope breakdown of it and pointing out that like nod to the theme and to the plot of the story from within that pilot episode. That was pretty genius in my opinion and pretty dope. And if you guys haven't seen Breaking Bad, kill yourself, but definitely watch it because it's, in my opinion, like top 2 episode of all time. Very, very close second to The Wire. And that was what I wanted to share on that. Let me know what you guys think. This episode's going kind of long. All right, so writing communities. Shout out to, first off, to Josh Robertson, which in the last episode he was featured in the last episode of the Spun Today podcast because he filled out the questionnaire, which is located at spuntoday.com/questionnaire, which is available to any and all writers or creatives. And I read your responses on the podcast. And he mentioned joining writing communities, which is something that I've read about in the past. It's not really something that I gravitated towards. I decided to give it a shot. And I found what was interesting is that I don't know, things happen like for a reason, I guess sometimes, but or it's just purely coincidental. I'm just looking too much into it. But after like airing that episode and his advice to join like writing communities and just to be around, which makes sense, be around writers if you want to be a writer type of thing. And online writing communities are a good way to do that, especially since most writers are like introverts and aren't they have like seminars and like stuff like that and shit, but I'm not into that type of thing yet. Maybe it's something I would look into in the future, but Not against, it's just not my thing, right? Not my personality. Anyway, online communities are a good balance to that, in that sense that they're online. And I, shortly after airing that episode, I received an email from a newsletter. I think it's Cam Weiland's writing newsletter that I subscribe to. And it literally had a list of top 10 writing communities and a synopsis of each one. Like, this one is for writers of science fiction, and the age group is normally between this and this, or although they're accepting to blah blah blah. And like, it broke down like the top writing communities, and I read through that. I found one that resonated with me and decided to join it. It's called figment.com. Well, all the shit is free, by the way. For anybody out there listening, it's called figment.com, figment.com. I'll link to that in the episode notes as well. And let me just jot that down. Figment.com. Link to it. All right. And it's pretty cool. There's a bunch of different writers on there, obviously, right? That's what it is, a writing community. But a lot of people, again, in the full spectrum of writing, people that write poems, that are just starting, people that, they post their work on there, people comment, give advice, and it's pretty cool. If why not be around that? I signed up, had a couple interactions, like literally by the next day, which was kind of cool. And you link back to your own website on there, which obviously helps you from a what's it called? SLA? What is it? I forget what the acronym is, but from the internet marketing perspective, quote unquote, it helps to get hits on your website, to have different websites linking back to your website. But it's about exposure, right? You want, as a writer or as a creator, you want people to read your shit. Ultimately, that's your goal. And this is a way to do that while at the same time getting better at what you do by taking constructive criticism from other people and just putting more content out there. And it's pretty cool. And actually, there's another, I guess it's a writing community, but it's like more than that. It's not like limited to writing, that I joined a long time ago, where I've put all my short stories on. It's called hitrecord.org. And it's like it's a production company of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the actor. He started this online thing where you can submit anything, basically writing, short stories, videos, short films, like anything that you create as a creator. You submit it there completely for free, and it's meant to be the type of community where you, as someone who's like in that community, you can take one short story and combine it with yours, or take a film, or take a short story and create it. There's people on there that are like aspiring directors and producers and like whatever, from all different types of facets of content creators. And ultimately, there's like 3 stages of it. People submit stuff, and you have your own little setup of whatever it is that you submit. Then you have like the second stage of people taking ideas from different people, or borrowing ideas from different people, or joining ideas together. And then a final stage of actually creating something. So if that happens, then it goes to like the Hit Record store, where anything that is made with your content, you get a piece of the pie or whatever, right? Like, it's divided up amongst like everyone involved. So if one of my short stories, somebody reads it and a director reads it and wants to like put it together and make it actually be something, make a short film and submit it somewhere, and if it ever makes any money or gets any exposure or whatever, then I'm like tied to it. So that's like the idea behind that. So I guess that's kind of like a writing community, which I've been signed on to that for like a long time, but it's pretty cool what he's doing there. So check those out if you guys are into writing or anything like that. Figment.com and hitrecord.org. And the last 2 things, so I can wrap this thing up. is one, a book review getting tip. Like I mentioned that I was going to speak about. So something that I got from, I believe, almost positive. It's from Joanna Penn's Creative Pen podcast that I mentioned many times before. There was someone on there that mentioned they mentioned something. I don't remember if it was this exactly, but it sparked the idea for me to go into Amazon and then ultimately into Goodreads to do the same type of thing and read the reviews of, I remember now. It was in Amazon, and it was to read reviews of books that are like similar to yours and reach out to the people that write the reviews. So if you go on Amazon, look up any book or anything that has a review basically, and you can read the comments and stuff like that. You can click on the name of the person that wrote a particular review, and not often on Amazon, but every 10, 15, 20 people, they have their email address on there. So because you have the option to make your email public or not on Amazon. And so the tactic pretty much is read a review for a book that is similar to yours, that someone has reviewed, and look up their email address that way, and reach out to them, send them an email and say, hey, I wrote a book, it's within the same vein, and I'll send it over to you for free. And, if you want to write a review on it, great. If you don't, definitely understandable. Thank you for your time, blah, blah, blah. So I started doing that, and have been doing it more so on Goodreads, because Goodreads, instead of like every 10, 15, 20 people having their email address posted, people who review books on Amazon normally review books on Goodreads as well. And probably even more so Goodreads. Goodreads allows you to write people messages and stuff like that through the Goodreads like system. You don't need someone's personal email address or anything like that. So anybody who's written a review the same exact way, click on their profile. Most of them, I would say like 6, 7, 8 out of 10, allow you to message them, because you could, again, that's an option that you can turn on and off. And I've been reaching out to people from both sites, from both Amazon and Goodreads, but again, mainly Goodreads because it's more readily available. And have been having some success. It's a very, 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 very slow return, I guess, on investment, but it's something that you could clearly see will build up. So I've gotten a few reviews from there. I think 2 or 3 reviews so far. And it's like, I don't know, maybe like a 5 to 10% return. So you reach out to 10 people, you might get a response from 2, and one of them might say, go fuck yourself, not interested, but in a nicer way. Or they'll say, yeah, sure, send me your book, and here's my email address. And that one might translate into review, it might not. And but it's something that doesn't take a long time to do. I do a few a day, 5, 6 a day, every other day type of thing, and it's shown some success. I OD'd at first though. I was sending like 20 a day, and like Goodreads send me a message like for a solicitation or some shit like that. So tone it down a little bit. Don't get crazy. It's a long game, right? Like everything else in writing. Now, very, very quickly, the last thing that I want to mention is on gun control, because I got to get the fuck out of here. Still got to go shower and get ready and go to work. It's just a thought, and I haven't thought deeply about it, and I haven't researched about it to see if something like this already exists or if my thought process is even right. But just a thought. You know how and this is about gun control reform, which seems to be like something that's like gridlock, that's like not going anywhere, which is not a good thing because fucked up shit is happening around the fact that it's not going anywhere. You know how like to raise the debt ceiling and for certain financial related laws like Dodd-Frank and stuff like that, like those things have like an expiration date. Like you have to renew the debt ceiling like every year. Remember that whole thing a few years back, or maybe every couple of years, Congress has to vote on, renewing it and raising the debt ceiling and stuff like that. And it's something that they always do, but they made a big deal about it when Obama was president, saying, no, we can't do it anymore. Like that type of shit to try to like fuck them over, even though it was done like every year before that. So I feel like for financial things, and I could be wrong about this, again, it's just a thought. I feel that for financial things, there's like an expiration date or a limit. But then when it comes to things like gun control reform, like they politicians or the powers that be, if you will, want to make it like an absolute type of thing. And I was thinking, since there's so many valid arguments on both sides in terms of like the dynamics between guns in inner cities versus guns in the Midwest and people that grew up just hunting and as part of their culture and heritage and stuff like that versus people that are using it to rob and steal and kill people. There's a large spectrum there, and like to close that gap, to have some sort of compromise within that spectrum seems very unlikely. And given those like polarizing views, so why not approach gun control? And I don't know if anyone has like tried to or anything like that, but why not approach it with the sense of, or with the idea of, an expiration date? Why not make it to make it absolute on either side? Like, you guys have to do this, or no, you guys have to do that. Again, seems unlikely. So why not find the compromise that would work, but do it with that type of mentality of, all right, we want to do this and this and that, give and take from both sides, but we're going to put a expiration date on it, a limit on it, where, we're not going to change it permanently forever, because that's what everybody seems to be so up in arms about, but we are going to change it, until for the next 2 years, and then reevaluate based on statistics and murder rates and like all the fucked up shit that we're trying to avoid based on that, and then tweak it accordingly and re-vote on it. Or if not, it goes back to where it is now, but at least we fucking tried something for like a year or two to see if it works, to see if it helps. Why not approach it that way? I think people would be more willing, in my opinion. A logical, reasonable person might be more willing to compromise in that sense if they know it's not like a permanent thing. I think people have an issue with permanence, and yeah, that's it. That's my thought on gun control. My unresearched, ill-advised thought on gun control. So anyway, that's the episode, folks, for the week. I gotta get the fuck out of here and get ready for work. And thank you guys very much for listening. I'll record the outro later. Peace. What's up, folks? I'm back. And this is the outro portion of the podcast, which is pretty much the commercial side of it, right? The how to support me and the podcast if you choose to. So if you're not into any of that stuff, thanks for listening, and check out the next episode in a couple weeks. But one last point that something I was thinking about throughout the day that I forgot to mention is that in regards to the wrongful convictions and like stuff like that, big takeaway for me was listening to a bunch of these different accounts is that, like I said before, of course the system gets things right more so than not. But as one of the exonerees said, which was the subject of the very first and second episode, because this one was split into part 1 and part 2. His name is Greg Taylor. He stated, and it resonated with me, that of course the system gets it right more than not, but when it doesn't, not to sweep shit under the rug and to try to figure out what exactly went wrong and how to prevent it in the future. And just from like an outside looking in view, like in his case, for example, there was a quote unquote not quote unquote, there was a he got arrested because he was driving along some road. His car, him and a friend of his car got stuck like on a street and like in the mud or something somewhere in North Carolina, and they parked it, couldn't get it out, and they were drinking, they were out like partying and stuff like that, so they decided that that's, you know, a sign, let's not drive anymore and let's just like walk to a payphone, and they wound up like hitchhiking along the way or whatever, and some lady picked them up and took them to, and they went out I think with her and kept hanging out, and when he came back the next day to his car, he sees that there's cops like on like a block away or something like that, or 2 blocks away, and it's taped off, and he can't get to like where his car is, and you know, he asks one of the officers, you know, direct him to the detective that's working the case, and naturally he's a suspect, you know, from the cops' point of view, because, by the way, spoiler alert, there was a woman that was like dead and left like on the side of the road, like a block or 2 away from where his car was, so that whole area was blocked off, and naturally he's a suspect just because his car's there, you know what I mean? And long story short, they like interrogated him, didn't find anything on him. They didn't find any DNA of the lady anywhere like near the car or anything like that, or his DNA on her or anything like that, like nothing aside from the fact that his car's there. But he did get arrested, and during questioning, him and his friend both got arrested. And long story short, you got to listen to it for like all the nuance and the details of everything. There was a jailhouse informant that is exactly what it sounds like. Someone from the prison that informs the police that he has information on the case or whatever, and they're incentivized informants. These jailhouse informants can reduce their own personal sentences for giving information on other convicts. So this guy that he's never even met in prison, and he says he doesn't even remember ever even speaking with, tells the cops that that, you know, this guy that just got locked up here just confessed to everything and told me that he did murder some girl, because this guy was like seeing it like on the news, like on the TV and stuff. And with that testimony, this guy wound up being locked up, I think it was like 22 years or something, like 6 shit like that, or 17 years. And just like from the outside looking in, if you're going by like a jailhouse informant, if that's like your only thing to go by, like it's one thing if it's like some like that along with some other stuff, like, you know, kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing, or the cherry on top of everything. But if that's your thing to go by, you know, a jail, it's, that shouldn't be a thing. Like, why is that a thing? Why is it, if it's information period, that's one thing, but it's incentivized. So of course motherfuckers in jail are always, you know, you're gonna lie. It's like, oh, I can make up a story about that guy and get 10 years reduced for my sentence. Sure, let me make some shit up, let me give it a shot. What do I have to lose? You know what I mean? Like, of course. That's so ridiculous. Like, that has absolutely no like positive function. You can have the same shit, like if somebody wants to like snitch and give information on another inmate or something like that, but don't make it incentivized. Don't make it so that they willingly like make shit up. You know what I mean? Like you're creating a situation where that behavior is accepted, and that's some fucked up shit. That's something that shouldn't be. So like stuff like that, don't try to like when something like this comes to light, it's like frustrating because it's like, yeah, it's a black eye in the eye of the system, or however you want to view it, but that's part of it. You know what I mean? That's how you fix shit. You gotta highlight the wrongs and the fucked up things and try to fix it. You know what I mean? Though you only know of things that are wrong and things that need attention and need to be fixed if you if you notice them and highlight them and shine a light on them, you know what I mean? Not by sweeping shit under the rug. Then you continue to have situations like that. Anyway, I just want to make that point. And again, there's links in the episode notes to the Innocence podcast, the podcast page. The episode that I recommend that you guys listen to if you're into this type of shit is episodes 1 and 2 with Greg Taylor, I believe his name is Taylor Greggs. And that is pretty much it on that, folks. Let me do some housekeeping here, and I will let you all go. So first off, the Midday Monday Boost Letter. Would you like to receive a short email from me once a week on Mondays when you're bored at work, don't have shit to do, you're hating your life because it's Monday? You could receive a very short but uplifting, motivational, entertaining email from me once a week on Mondays at noon. That includes a photo of the week, because I'm into photography, a video of the week, which could be anything from a comedy skit or a battle rap or just a TED Talk, like anything, that video that resonated with me, a podcast of the week, a quote of the week, and a word of the week. Check it out. If you want to subscribe, go to spuntoday.com/subscribe. For any writers or creatives out there that are interested in being featured on the Spun Today podcast, as some writers have in the past, you can check out my 5-question questionnaire. It's at spuntoday.com/questionnaire. And it's 5 questions, open-ended questions that you can fill out related to your craft. Check out the questions so you can know what they are. And I pretty much read them and share them with the listeners of the podcast. And I learn things from them. Other people do as well, I'm sure. And it's a cool way to spread tips and inspiration and motivation and just cool things about you and what you're up to. And you can remain anonymous if you choose to. And if not, I'll definitely give you a shout out for filling that out. The 5 questions are open-ended questions. Your responses and answers to them can be as long or as short as you would like them to be. Check out the photography on my website, which is available to everyone and anyone for free. You can download the digital copies of them and save them, and that's located at spuntoday.com/photography. And if you happen to actually want prints of any of that stuff that comes like in a poster or in a frame, you can go to crated.com, crated.com/spuntoday, and get prints of any of the ones that you want. Support the podcast financially by going to the affiliate links page on my website at spuntoday.com, and you there will find banners to Amazon or iTunes, and by clicking through either of those banners, it'll go to the respective websites where you do your shopping like normal. And Amazon or iTunes gives me a kickback just for driving traffic towards their website based on the purchases that you make, and it does not raise the price on any of the purchases that you do make. And if you listen to podcasts, you know the drill when it comes to that stuff. On that page, you'll also find a link to the Created website that I mentioned earlier with the photography and stuff like that, that you can get prints from. And you can also find a link to the Viral Style page, Spun Today page, where you can get a couple of podcast t-shirts or coffee mugs that are available there. So check that out if you guys want to support. Another way to support financially, if you choose to, is to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/Spun Today. That's website that the way it works, it's pretty much like a GoFundMe style type of donation website page type of thing. And the way it works specifically is that you can choose to pledge any denomination that you would like of any amount through that website per episode of the Spun Today podcast. So I normally put out 2 episodes a month, every 2 weeks. And you can choose to pledge 50 cents per episode or something like that. So it'll cost you $1 a month. Or, you can start or cancel whenever you want. The whole shebang. Check that out. I'd really appreciate it. And what I would appreciate more than anything is if you guys that do listen to the podcast, if you're enjoying it, if you like it, rate it, review it. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Google Play, or any of your favorite podcatchers that the Spun Today podcast is featured on, and show some love. Give a rating and a review for the podcast. Also, check out the Spun Today YouTube page, which the easiest way to get to it is to go to my website and just click on any of the YouTube icons that are located at like the footnote section of the page of the website, and it'll take you to my YouTube page. Hit me up and follow me on social media at Spun Today on Instagram and on Twitter. Check out and like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Spun Today. Lastly, the book that I told you guys about earlier, my first book, self-published book, that I'm getting requesting reviews on and stuff like that I told you guys about, is available on Amazon if you guys want a paperback copy. If you want the ebook version, that is available pretty much wherever ebooks are sold. You can find it on iBooks, you can find it on Kindle, you can find it on Kobo, Smashwords, and all that good stuff. If you want to know more about the book, you can check out the landing page for it on my website, spuntoday.com/books. There you have a few audio excerpts, like an audiobook format, and also a synopsis of what the book is about, a video of me explaining how it came to be and what it's about, and also an option at the bottom of the page if you want a free copy, PDF copy of it. I will shoot you one over. Just drop your email address in there, and I'll get one right over to you. All I ask if you go that route is to rate and review it on Amazon and or Goodreads. That would be greatly appreciated as well. And that's pretty much it, folks. As always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams. Thanks for listening.